Picture ancient Rome. Imagine the Colosseum packed to the brim. The air is thick with the smell of sweat, wine, and blood. Below, in the sandy arena, men are forced to fight to the death, their lives reduced to mere entertainment for the roaring crowds. This was the world of the gladiator, and in a training school in Capua, a man named Spartacus was sharpening his blade, not for the games, but for something far greater: freedom. Spartacus wasn't born a slave. He was a Thracian warrior, a free man captured in battle and sold into the brutal life of a gladiator. He was taught to kill, to die, and to accept his fate. But Spartacus refused. He saw his fellow gladiators not as rivals, but as brothers in chains. He knew their strength, their skill, and their shared desire to live as free men. One fateful night in 73 BC, the time came to act. Spartacus, along with about 70 other gladiators, decided they would rather die fighting for their freedom than for the amusement of others. Their plan was desperate, almost suicidal. Armed with nothing more than kitchen knives and whatever they could steal from the school's armory, they fought their way out. They broke through the guards, tasting freedom for the first time in years. The alarm was raised, but they were already gone, melting into the Italian countryside and making their way to the formidable slopes of Mount Vesuvius. This volcanic mountain would become their fortress, a symbol of their fiery rebellion. Word of their escape spread like wildfire. To the slaves toiling in the fields, the forgotten poor, and the outcasts of Roman society, this was not just a prison break. It was a beacon of hope. They flocked to Vesuvius, drawn by the legend of the gladiator who defied an empire. What started with 70 men soon swelled into thousands. Spartacus wasn't just a fighter, he was a leader. He began to organize this diverse group of rebels, training them, forging them into a disciplined and formidable army. Initially, Rome laughed. A small band of runaway slaves? A Senate saw them as a minor annoyance, a police matter, not a military threat. They dispatched a small force under the command of Gaius Claudius Glaber, expecting a swift and easy victory. Glaber cornered the rebels on Vesuvius, blocking the only known path down. He planned to simply wait them out, to let thirst and starvation do his work for him. But Spartacus was a brilliant tactician. He had his men gather wild vines growing on the mountainside and weave them into strong ropes. Under the cover of darkness, they rappelled down a sheer cliff face on the other side of the mountain, completely bypassing the Roman blockade. They fell upon the sleeping Roman camp from behind, annihilating Glaber's force. The victory was stunning. It sent shockwaves through Italy and turned Rome's laughter into concern. Now armed with captured Roman weapons and armor, the slave army was a genuine threat. They marched across the Italian peninsula, their numbers growing with every town they passed and every slave they liberated. They defeated another Roman army and then another. For 2 years, Spartacus and his followers were unstoppable. They plundered estates, freed slaves, and defeated consular armies, the very legions that had conquered the known world. It seemed for a breathtaking moment that the impossible was happening. The lowest of the low, the people considered property, were on the verge of bringing the mighty Roman Republic to its knees. The fear in the Roman Senate was palpable. This was no longer a minor revolt. It was a full-blown war that threatened the very foundation of their society. In this moment of crisis, they turned to one of their wealthiest and most ruthless citizens, Marcus Licinius Crassus. Crassus was given command of 8 legions, over 40,000 soldiers, and a singular mission: crush Spartacus at any cost. Crassus knew he was facing a hardened and motivated enemy. He restored brutal discipline to the Roman ranks, even reviving the practice of decimation, where 1 in every 10 soldiers of a failed unit was executed by his own comrades. He systematically cornered the rebel army, cutting off their supply lines and escape routes. The tide began to turn. The vast resources and relentless organization of the Roman war machine were finally brought to bear against the rebels. The final confrontation came in 71 BC hemmed in, and with nowhere left to run, the slave army turned to face Crassus's legions for one last desperate battle. Spartacus knew the odds were impossible. His only hope was to break the Roman command structure. In a legendary act of courage, he charged on horseback directly at the Roman commanders, cutting a bloody path through the ranks, trying to reach Crassus himself. He fought with the fury of a man who had nothing left to lose, but he was overwhelmed. He was last seen swallowed by a wave of Roman soldiers, fighting until the very end. His body was never identified. The rebellion was broken. Rome's victory was total, and its revenge was horrific. Over 6,000 survivors of the battle were captured. As a chilling warning to any other slave who might dream of freedom, Crassus had them all crucified along the Appian Way, the main road leading into Rome. For miles the road was lined with crosses, a brutal and public display of Roman power. Rome had won, but the name Spartacus would echo through history. He was the slave who made an empire tremble. He proved that the desire for freedom is a force more powerful than chains, and that even in the face of impossible odds, the struggle for dignity is a battle worth fighting. The Roman elite would never forget the man who almost tore their world apart. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as powerful as I did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next dive into history. See you next time.